Awesome. Beautiful. More of those conversations, friends. Continue to say it one more time. Ask each other out and go, hey, can we follow up that a little bit? What about this? How are you living this out? This is a lot of the magic, right? Translocal ministry that I get to see what God is doing here. Now I get to kind of pull some of that and share that in other places. And I want to share some of that with you guys and kind of pull those thoughts together and curate those thoughts. I had the really interesting experience of life collapsing on my wife and I in a lot of ways at the beginning of COVID. We can talk about it more. In that we had both jumped from what we were doing before. I was a pastor for 13 years. And I honestly, just as honest as I can be with you guys, I woke up one day and realized that my congregation was a decentralized group of pastors across the country. And I felt like I was cheating on my congregation to show up and preach to them. So that's as honest as I can say it. And that was, I knew, the beginning of the beginning, which first had the beginning of the end in that. And so it's a great joy to hear connectedness, love, brotherhood, sisterhood in spaces like this. And I also think that it can be helpful to pull pieces together to say a couple of things. I was talking to the guys about it this morning. You're completely unique. I mean, your own spiritual fingerprint wiring, you've preached this stuff, you know that. Your church is unique. And I think we've seen how jacked up it was that we were comparing ourselves at national conferences to a church here and what's happening there. Sure, learn from and be informed by what's happening in Vancouver or be informed by what's happening in Austin. But last I checked, this isn't Austin. Last I checked, this isn't Vancouver. And so there's a uniqueness. But then the side that I bring into coaching a lot of times is, and you're normal. Whether we're talking about sabbatical, it's like you'll probably feel 90% of similar things here. Turns out you're normal. And there's this strange thought for us, like, you know, I'm a freak. Nobody else is feeling this kind of fear or feeling like pastoring is really hard in the season or feeling like maybe I've looked around online to see if there were anything else that I could do with my skills besides used car sales, insurance, and multi-level marketing at some level or fundraising for a nonprofit. And maybe I'm normal. And I think we have to realize that we are both normal and completely unique at the same time. Both of those are helpful and I think even healing to realize. So I hear a lot of normal in this room, no offense. And I hear a lot of unique in this room, no offense. And both of those are true. My story is I got to work with church planters and had just an incredible ride for about 10 years of being sort of the Ben character. Oh, hey, you want to plant in Fort Worth? Here you go. Here's the challenge, though. I got a lot of calls, usually in July, August, and September, where people feeling deeply, why are you laughing, Gary? People feeling deeply called to plant in Colorado. Oh, yeah. Why are you scoffing? These people are called, Gary. Of which I said, did you come to Colorado on vacation by any chance in June or July? Yes. And then there was this complicated story behind it as well. It turns out they were 6 months from their severance running up. They'd been pushed out the door. I mean, whatever that is. And I was like, oh, okay. So we had a lot of filtering work to be able to ask the questions. And I love this discernment year that what a gift you guys have to have a discernment year. To discern, is planting, is this unique location what we are called to, what we're drawn to. And man, what a gift. If I could go back, we would have done that. We would have broken that up. The problem was people had already sold their vision to people back somewhere else and felt like they couldn't turn around. And so we kind of skipped over several phases of that. And so in the midst of this residency, in the midst of what God was doing uniquely in our city, church planting-wise and pulling groups, we called it a Freaks Like Me Club. And it was just kind of like, hey, if you want to dream a little bit differently about the mission of the church, show up. And I'm telling you, some crazies did, and we all loved each other, and we felt crazy and normal all together. It was a beautiful ride during that time. But somewhere in the midst of that, I realized two things. Number one, these people didn't need more content. Over about 10 years, we had seen virtually no church planting content, or very little, to way too much. And they were reading 7 different streams of this, 6 different ideas on this, 47 ways to be missional, this type of church with this kind of leader. And I was like, stop it. Just stop reading. Start hearing from the Father. Pray for clarity. Pray about what are the cracks in your community, your neighborhood. Don't cheat off somebody else's paper. And in that time, we were cheating more off people's papers at conferences than we are in social media. And so the thing is there, the mechanism has changed. And so we need to be really careful. And I call comparison the great creativity killer. I mean, of course it kills our contentment. Of course, right? We have a generation drowning in anxiety right now. But I'm actually as concerned about it killing the creativity of this incredible organism called the church. Because, well, they did it here, and here's the thing. No offense if you guys did this, but by now, trunk or treat has saturated our country. I don't want to, get that out of the bag, but, trunk or treat has saturated our country. And the Mormon church does it as well. So it's that's great, that's fine. But you guys should get together and be who does the best one, and how do we just, here's $1,000, buy way more candy. My kids got, over 25 pounds of candy this year. What has happened in our culture? We used to get one. What the heck? We had to work hard for it. And we would burn that piece of candy by the time we got to the next one. Here, I'm carrying stuff for them. My backpacking pack, I'm carrying for my children. What is happening? Because they went to 6 trick-or-treats at 6 different churches. And I'm not trying to be cynical. Where's the freshness and where's the innovation? Could we dream about what our community is missing? And maybe we actually need to take some of that energy and put it toward daycare. Maybe we need to take some of that and go, hey, we need a work incubator here that ends with a grant process at the end of that for the best nonprofit idea. Hey, we're going to farm out our best, most strategic people can become your board members. That kind of innovation. A friend of mine says this, without margin, there's no imagination. Think about that. Without margin, there's no imagination. So the fruit is often our comparison and lack of creativity. I think the root is this. We're exhausted, and we're trying to do a lot. And I say we, I just mean collectively leaders in our culture. We've taken on the collective anxiety of people saying, we have to go back to this. Wait, you hated that program for 3 years. Why do you want to bring it back now after COVID? What? The good old days were not that good. And when I realized as we were planting churches and as we were coming alongside of existing churches and some of the same call you're giving us, the beautiful story of the church that every couple years says, we've saved up, and we just had no idea they were saving up. And we'll give 100 people, we'll give $100,000, and we're praying. And I'm why do you need me? Well, we need the person and we need the process. And one call led to one visit, led to incredible things happening, and that church is now planting churches. It's beautiful to watch. And that's how they get in where they fit in, to the residency process and all that. But I realized in there that the issue was actually not with leaders' capacity, it was with the church planters' longevity. And so we needed to flip from just training for a higher capacity to focusing on longevity. I don't know about you, but the older I get, I just want to be healthy. I just want to have energy. I just want to feel rested when I wake up. Don't really care to be ripped again. Don't really want to put in 4 hours at the gym and be that guy, the huge jug water bottle guy. You know that guy? It's cool, man. I drink that much every day, but I refill it. I go to water fountains and refill it. And the guy's, cool, bro. You drank a jug of water all day, every day. Cool, I get it. You're huge. The dude's a square and can beat me up. But I don't even know that guy's that healthy. And so we do the same as we compare. And that to me is what I'm about. I love the focus here on health. Healthy, life-giving, mission-minded. What I hear is longevity. How do we create a safety net so that when it hits the fan for a leader, and it will, that they're amongst sisters and brothers here? Not people they're competing against. What are we doing if we're competing? And so I know I'm preaching to the choir, and your robes look great, guys. But this is beautiful. And this net, they need the who here probably more than the what. They need the who here probably more than the what, more than the dollars. They need somebody they can call and go, Chris, you ever faced this before? Chances are you have. You ever faced somebody that is leaving your church? Yeah, we got 3 right now who are considering it, or who told me after the fact. We all have that within us to be able to share. And we started to see then the value of longevity and then the value of community as opposed to just capacity. We are going to train you up front for everything. And it's laughable. It's here's a 5-day boot camp. What's one thing you learn? I don't know. The best thing about that, though, was lunch, where they had this connective conversation. They're crying. They're exchanging pictures of their kids. And it's like, man, let's work with the grain of humanity in this time and not against it. And so what I want to do is share, kind of from that journey, I realized that longevity focus, that community focus, and then I realized I have to reverse engineer and go, what is the best thing that we're doing with leaders? And what is the stuff that's just not bearing fruit? It's like good old-fashioned pruning. And I realized the coaching, the in time, let's chat every few weeks about one little part of your life and then your next steps was skyrocketing. And I had to realize they can't share the kind of info that we were sharing. And I loved very similar feel. They were hearing from different people's perspectives, from outside, from inside. And so that focus on longevity, on community, and then on coaching, we kind of went all in on that. And we just realized the other stuff, we really didn't miss it. People are going to continue to learn and lead and share with each other. And that was a really life-giving shift. And so that would be the example of one of these shifts. I learn from leaders all over the country, and I'm in deep relationship with them. They're sharing sometimes their shifts and doubts before they are with a good friend or a spouse. And so I feel this weight, like in a good way, of this stewardship that I've got stuff in my pack that I'd love to share with you guys. So here's what I'm hearing, and some shifts that I believe that we can and must make right now. And so I took about 80 of them and actually put them down to just a page and think, and pray, kind of what do you guys need to hear today? So here are the coaching conversations we're having about shift. Number one, we must focus on personal, team, and church health. We just have to. We have to. Early on in ministry, my boss laughed at me, the executive pastor, as I was like, I have so much on my plate. I got this going on and that going on. And he just looked at me and just cracked up in my worst hour. And he said, just like roll of toothpaste. You roll it up, you squeeze it, and you just see what comes out. I was like, thanks. A bunch of anxiety. I appreciate you making light of this moment right now. COVID was the great revealer. And I don't think it created the unhealth that we are sensing as a society right now. I think it revealed our lack of resiliency. It revealed our lack of reserves, as John Eldridge would say, that we're at the end of our reserves. And strange things are happening. Marriages we didn't know were struggling are busting apart like an epidemic right now of that, right? Anxiety is doing strange things to us. We're making bad and desperate decisions. Secret things that were small have made their way to secret things that are big in people's lives. And so we just must focus on personal, team, and church health. A lot of team health they're calling culture. And I'm a big fan of some of the, kind of culture growing efforts right now. Here's a trick, guys. Just go have fun. Like, go spend some money and go have fun together. Go have more fun with your family. It's like, it was a really heavy season. And when you get teams laughing together, we went to a conference once. Again, don't really remember what the sessions were, which is depressing as a speaker. When you go somewhere, you're like, yeah, okay. So we should do a fun exercise or something during this breakout. Maybe you remember something I said, Chris, but it introduced us to each other. And we were go-karting together, and I swear we were catching air at this go-kart place. And, this guy was like 6'6", and I don't know how he fit into that. And, we were that close from getting kicked out. Like, it was a bad situation, and it was the best thing about what we did there. And we were laughing together, and somebody paid for it. And man, that was probably the best $100 that they've spent in a long time, was getting us fools out there together. And we got stories and we're cracking up. And then, of course, dinner after that was amazing, because it always is, right? When we're connected, we're having fun together. The next one is we need to remember what we've all been through the last few years. Just like our brothers and sisters Israel, we have a terrible memory. Like, we have been through a lot. Now, my wife works in trauma, foster care and prisoners, and so it's incredibly helpful to see that people who have been through trauma need safety in order to build trust. How do we build safety? Unfortunately, it's consistency. Just keep showing up. I have 2 adopted kids, and they need a different kind of safety than my bio kids do. And we have all been through a lot in this season. And I say you've been through a lot. You've had people you thought were in and were on your elder team, were your biggest givers, and then suddenly they didn't even tell you that they left the church. Yeah, ministry. Oh, it's not personal. It's personal. And again, you can talk to somebody else here a lot cheaper than you can to a counselor. I'm a big fan of therapists and counselors. I just finished a 26-month counseling journey. It was amazing. Somebody's like, do you think you have big things to reveal? I was like, there's something to reveal. There's something in there. And I need to deal with it. And why would I not want to be as healthy as I can? And so if you want your congregation to go to counseling, then you're going to have to stand up and just work it into a conversation. Not, you should go to counseling, but, hey, I'm in counseling right now. You just suddenly normalized it, right? This is what resilient people do, is they go to counseling. Not this is what weak people do. And so I hear that a lot. It's, how do we get more people to go to counseling? You go to counseling, and then you tell them you go to counseling, and the water's great. Come on in. I made some discoveries I could not have made any other way. God could have done a miracle, obviously, but he did that through Sambo, my counselor. And I gave him a huge hug, afterwards and just thanked him for the journey that we've been on. We have to move from reactive to proactive. We have to move from reactive to proactive. Guys, words shape worlds. In our language, I hear this a lot. Well, pre-COVID, we were, please stop. Well, attendance, please stop. We've got to move from reactive to proactive. That mindset where our adrenal system was just on for a few years making changes, and what's the next big change? We have to be able to take the time, get healthy enough, and zoom out and look ahead. And I think this is the best time we have right here at the end of the year, by the way. This is the best time to prune, right? That thing that you want to get rid of or you don't want to bring back, this is the time, because it's just blame it on the year, blame it on the end of the year, blame it on where we're heading in the future. And I say that in jest, but this is a great time to prune. Also a great time to prune to say, as we've zoomed out and looked over the last few years, we are now in the season where we're going to be forward thinking. And we had to react. We had to respond. Anybody see COVID coming like that? Nope, I didn't either. We were fully 100% unprepared for it as a team of coaches, right? Which we probably should have thought through that. I literally thought about... No, for another day. Okay, I'll share. When it was having the breakout in Seattle, there was a conference that was canceled, and I was like, that's crazy. I literally thought about going and doing a shadow conference for everybody else that showed up that wasn't part. That was how crazy we were thinking, guys, at that time. It was like, this is wild. There's no way. Are you kidding me? And then I was with about 65 pastors when we're like, this is real. I think Sunday's sermon is coming through my phone right now to them. What is happening? We've got to find a way to zoom out and to look ahead, individuals, teams, all of it. With the trauma piece, when a marriage breaks apart, when somebody does something egregious we didn't see coming, we have to say, what's the thing below the thing? What was brewing here? There's a lot of loneliness right now. There's a lot of anxiety right now. There's a lot of economic fear right now. What's the thing below the thing? Kind of like with my kid. It's like, oh yeah, you punched your brother in the face. Not cool. But why would you punch your brother in the face? What's going on below this? Oh, you're scared? Oh, they took something of yours? Oh, you're incredibly sad? Oh, your best friend is moving away? What's going on below what's going on? And to pay attention to what we pay attention to. We need to get used to having a cultural disadvantage. This is really painful. And I coach a lot of leaders in New England and in the Northeast, and I'm telling you, friends, God's doing something special in New England, by the way, but they're coming to us from the future. And they said, man, I said, how has COVID been different? And they're like, it is and it isn't. It's business as usual. And they said, you have to remember that people have always been skeptical of us. Not only are they a Christian in New England, they're a pastor, so propagating this thing. And so in other parts of the country, we slowly feel this loss, is that if you used to live next to a Christian, that you'd be trusted more because you were that Christian neighbor. And then a pastor, you'd be trusted 10x because of that. And now that's flipped. And we actually have to learn to live at a cultural disadvantage. And it sounds a lot like the early church to me. But it's happening slowly, but we can feel it, right? We can feel that loss of respect that's actually turned into skepticism. And so the good news is I think it's purifying our motives, and the bad news is I think it's purifying our motives. And, there was a moment when, it's plant churches because church planting's cool. And we're like, man, here's what we're heading into. Declaring war on some of the cultural narratives that we have. We need to put major focus on experiences over information. Major focus on experiences over information. We do these 4-day experiences. I could tell you about them all day. I probably shouldn't. We go up to beautiful places, and we set the environment and set the table, and God does incredible things, and there are tears, and there's deep belly laughter, and it's just an amazing time of folks hearing from the Lord again. And it takes so much work to set these experiences. But I'm hearing about teams that are going away together. Again, they're having a lot of fun. They are having conversations and maybe just catching back up. They're being with their families again. And it's like, oh, we've missed each other. Man, it's good to see you again. Even though we've been serving on mission together, people feel like we haven't been together. And we're overwhelmed on information right now, but people are hungry for experiences. So what if we took down some of the information and up some of the experiences? And I'm not against good information, of course not, right? I'm not against, we have a podcast, right? I write, of course I'm not against it, but fundamentally the way that people are receiving information and content is shorter, you know that. And people have reels and are just deciding if it looks funny, that dog that's going to run down the stairs or whatever, just that fast. We have to change how we are communicating. People are overwhelmed. Overwhelmed people need bullet points, they need sound bites, and they need next steps. And again, this isn't just opinions. This is stuff that I hear from several folks, and there's good news that a lot of people are making these changes. A lot of churches are seeing some pretty cool things happen. Again, as we rebuild, we must create safety. This has been a fairly new discovery with me. It took me a little while. My wife's a lot smarter than I am. But in order to rebuild trust with people, come back to church, give again. You've been hurt by someone, uncancel someone if that's the action, right? Which I think involves forgiveness and repentance and reconnection and restoration, all these beautiful things. Requires trust. How do we build consistent environments of safety where people know what to expect? And I actually think that you guys were talking about that at this table a little bit, that's actually that normalcy can be really helpful to folks right now because not a whole lot is normal and consistent. And I don't love that, guys, as I say that, just so you know. I'm like, great, I need to create consistency with my kids. There needs to be dinner on the table that I cook at night, and they need to be picked up. I don't love chef and bus driver as my 2 titles, but guess what? Once I pick them up and there's warm food in their belly, they will talk, and we will connect. Until then, they're grouchy, and they're hangry. We need to assess ourselves and others regularly. There's a huge need for assessment right now, and not just that, how you doing for reals, how you actually doing. Let me teach you this. This could be helpful for you and for your team. And I actually just want you to sit in this or do a short reflective experience. What's your energy level, 1 to 10, over the last few weeks? I'm not just talking about today, I didn't sleep well, or I had, an extra cup of coffee. 1 to 10, what's been your energy level the last few weeks? Just reflect on that. Don't overthink it. Don't pray about it. One to 10, what's your energy level been? The second question, what's your encouragement level been? 1 to 10 over the last few weeks. This is a great question as you're checking in with your staff, a great question as you're checking in a one-on-one or with a friend or with your spouse even. I tripped over this during COVID because I needed a way. I sensed people were going downhill, and I needed a way to be able to measure that. And it's harder to measure, but it is measurable. And then after that, well, tell me more. So we have this phrase, the context determines the course. So if somebody shows up in your one-on-one at a 2 because they and their spouse just had a fight, that's very different from if they show up as a 10 and go, you can't believe all the fruit that's happening. This, we have a responsibility to channel that. This, we have a responsibility to shepherd them in that and through that, and to just sit with them. So it's not, I don't get to determine how I show up that day to them. I'm not going to try to pump somebody up when they're at a 2 to appease my anxiety, because I don't like them being at a 2, versus tell me more. Usually what's happening, if we can chart this has been really helpful. I do it weekly. We have this journal called the Right Side Up Journal that allows me to see this. And we say Thursdays are for self-awareness. Why? Because we're over the hump day. We can breathe a little bit, and we can go, what's actually going on underneath the hood? It's really helpful to see, man, my RPMs are going down. And this is very important. So we say, pay attention to what you pay attention to. We actually saw a leader who was going, he was like at 5, and then he was at 3, and then he was at 2, and it said, time out. What's going on? Well, he's an introvert who loved the golf course. Sound familiar, Chris? And he tried to golf on, his day off. He actually worked at the golf course so he could get free golfing. I'm like, that sounds good. He's like, divot repair is so healing when you can't see the results of your ministry work. I'm like, good point there. Well, the golf course wasn't open. It didn't have hours for him. He was, locked into his condo. People were doing Zoom meetings till 10:30 p.m. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. They're all doing Zoom meetings till 10:30 p.m. every night. I'm like, what decisions are you making every single night? And he was just going like that. And I said, time out, you need a break. He's like, I want to save my vacation for the summer. I'm not talking about vacation. You're sick, bro. Like, your body is telling you no more. We paid attention to that. He had a conversation with the lead pastor, allowed him to take 2 weeks sick leave. He changed some rhythms in his life, and then he saw that go up incrementally. He made some of the wisest decisions of his whole life. He actually texted me a couple weeks ago and just said, man, I'm loving this. He's at another church, and he found out his wiring was not to be small groups guy, meeting on Zoom meetings till 10 p.m. He couldn't change that culture in a major metropolitan city, and he's in a role that fits exactly who he's uniquely designed to be. But if we didn't have an assessment tool, we wouldn't have seen it's going the wrong direction here. So that can be really helpful for you. And again, consistent. Ask it at the beginning of every single meeting, and then it's not emotional. The worst meeting, hey, how you doing? And it's like, okay, which area of my life are we talking about here? Like, good and bad is probably always the answer to that, right? Like, good and bad. Hey, how's your family? Good and bad. Like, both of those are true at the same time. Another shift. We need to be less about content and more about connection. Less about content, more about connection. Guys, video is a great tool for this. You can pull your phone out, this little square in your pocket, and you can say to somebody, hey, happy birthday. I just want to say you are a good man. You are a good father. I just so appreciate you in my life. Happy birthday. Enjoy it. Go eat some cake for me. That took 12 seconds. And that's the best birthday message that they got that day. No offense to little Facebook messages where everybody says the exact same thing, right? It's like, man, what a cool tool. Somebody gives, and you go, I just want to thank you for your $7 gift. It looks like you've never given before, and our staff can afford a burrito with that for professional expense. Thank you so much. Thank you. Like, we have these connection opportunities. Another one is just simply being what we call accessible without being available. It's not like you're going to give everybody an hour of your time, but its touches out in the lobby are so valuable right now. Touches meaning the hug. Hey, get in here. Oh, hey, good to see you. Man, don't underestimate the difference that makes. It's you up on the stage hosting when somebody else could be, to just support what's happening here and just say we love you guys. People have been brutalized by our culture during this time. Gordon MacDonald describes it as when we come into church, it's like people need a bath. People just need a bath. And I feel that more than ever to go like, oh man, just that warm water of like, gosh, it's good for me to focus on something bigger than myself and bigger than my fears right now. We started something called Crucial Conversations in our community, and it's been great, kind of common good. It isn't a faith-forward space. So we ask leadership questions, and it's been incredible. We just show up. It's 1 hour, twice a month, first and third. It's the simplest thing ever. Black coffee. We're not going to have cream and 18 different vanilla creamers for you. I'm sorry. Black coffee, conversation, people, and it is exploding with vulnerability. It's been incredible. Guys are tearing up going around the table saying how it's like, this is not hard. Here's the question we're going to talk about. We'll have coffee. Here's the table, right? So I think if we could just simplify the complexity, I think we can go a long way right now with that connection. The next one is less information, more coaching. This isn't an infomercial for Stay Forth Coaching. Here, less information, more coaching. People don't know what to do with all the information they have. We have too much. Please don't Google leadership. Please don't Google ministry. Please don't Amazon that or Audible that. You're going to have way too many results. You don't know where to start. Go to somebody and go, what's the best book on ministry resilience you've ever read? Because I need to grow in that area. To your friend, they can help you, right? We need curation right now, and we need coaching, which actually says, what's your next step? Did you take that step? How did that go? Let's talk through that. Let's check back in. Why do I love coaching? Number one, it works. Haven't found anything that works better. Secondly, the context is different, even from the different staff members. There's something great about groups. There's something great about one-on-one, and so pursue coaching. The last thing is it helps with application. People are really struggling right now to make the thing happen, to like take the step right now. Culture seems to be paralyzed. Leaders even seem to be paralyzed. If I do this, then they'll think it's this. If I force people to come back to work, then they'll say that I don't see their pre-existing condition, right? That was through COVID. Now it's, man, I'm going to step on a landmine if I say anything around that. I'm going to be sued if, this thing happens or that thing happens, and just the fear underneath that. Guys, we're in a loneliness epidemic right now, and I think just to realize that is people aren't going, man, if I just had more content, that would make me really happy on a Friday night. But people are saying that about friends, about neighbors. I love what you guys are doing, doxology with neighborhoods and connecting people, and it's just beautiful. Smaller learning and practicing spaces more frequently. I think we need smaller learning and practicing spaces more frequently. So this week, we're going to learn this tool. This week, we're going to talk through this verse. I lead the 5th and 6th grade ministry, the little ministry at our church, and it's been awesome. And we focus on 1 to 3 verses each week. And then they go write that, sort of do their message version of that. They go talk it out, and then they say, is there anything I don't understand in this? And I'm like, this is like discipleship 101 stuff. Like I'm in a greasy spoon with some dudes, and we're just opening up scripture. They just happen to be, little 5th and 6th graders. Opportunities. I don't just want to talk about all the shifts. Opportunities I see, and I'm actually seeing churches across the country do some cool things with this. Number one, pruning. I think it's the greatest season for elimination right now that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. Maybe in the last decade. We had a whole lot of programs that weren't really working, but they were limping. And we're like, I guess if we're alive, we should, keep them. I guess if it's still there. But pruning, I believe elimination is one of our greatest tools, by the way, in terms of effectiveness. The next opportunity, building cultures of rest and work. I don't want to be so mythical with that. We get to redesign our schedules right now. Workplaces are doing that and redesigning around family. I redesigned my schedule, and it's working better than it ever has, and I think I'm able to show up better for leaders and my family than it ever has. We get to redesign our schedules, and I think this is a good moment. Time is going to run out on this moment post-COVID, by the way, before we found our new migration patterns and whatnot. Experiment. This one gets me excited. This is the moment to experiment. Here's a trick, guys. If you call it an experiment, people have a low bar. Even though you're like, this is actually the best thing we've ever done. We figured it out. There are 17 steps. It will be amazing. And then you get up and you're like, so we're just going to try this experiment. Jim and I, kind of like see what happens. We'll be here Tuesday. And you're like, 100 people are showing up. This is going to be insanely cool. Play it cool. Call it a pilot. We'll see what happens. There's this term called desire paths. The idea is this, very simply. You build a college campus, don't build the sidewalks. Put the buildings there, see where the kids trample down, and then you build the sidewalks later. This is the moment for desire paths and experiment. Like, if you got into ministry, like, wake up, guys. Like, this is the most fun time right now to try new things that may seem crazy. And guess what? Hey, this sounds a little crazy, but why don't you join me? Why not? Like, let's give it a shot. Like, this is our time. right? The other things are true, but let's not miss this moment. The people of God are creative. Limitation breeds innovation. Right now, limitation breeds innovation. The limits have been high. This is a moment to try stuff. When limits are high, that's when we try. I mean, give it a shot. Experiments, pilots, low bar stuff. How do we get high ROI on something with low amount of buy-in needed? Somebody early in ministry said this: don't ask for buy-in, ask for permission. So if you're not the lead to answer on something, just get permission. Hey, I don't need you to buy in on this. Why would you buy in on something you don't even know if it works or is worth budget? Literally the only plan is we're going to meet at Enchiladas Olay tonight and talk. That's it. It's like, excuse me, we'll give it a shot. Excuse me. The opportunity for touches right now, small touches, 5 minutes at a time, digital touches, a video. There's a video email called BombBomb, FaceTime, sending people funny videos. Kaleo and I sent a video to a friend today, instead of a picture, and it's just like there's a touch. In person, guys, meals. Excuse me. People want to get meals with friends again. Yeah, sure. I'll take anything, man. If it were Colorado, I'd be like, he threw me a gummy. I always get the weed jokes. It's true. There's other states that have legalized it, guys. We're not the only ones, okay? Meals. Like this right now is already a success. The moment that you walk in, say hey to somebody and grab food. I think we can bring back, not just the church potluck, but I think we can bring back the, hey, I have almost like open office hours. I'm going to be at this restaurant. I did this when I was a church planner. I'm going to be at this office. I got water. It's just not working. I'm going to be at this coffee shop between this time and this time. Whoever shows up, I buy you a coffee. It cost me $7, and it always bred great conversations. View yourself like a professor, and you have open office hours. You're welcome to come by the church anytime. We have bad coffee. You can come see me. Bad coffee, good conversation. And like that accessibility, they don't necessarily need to get together with you. They need to know they could. So I just want to invite you to see the opportunities right now. The last one, maybe the most important, reflection. Slow down and ask the Spirit of God for 3 things. Wisdom, which God loves to give generously. Power, which we need a power surge in the church right now. And comfort. I don't know about you, but I need the paraclete, the warm blanket to wrap around my soul in this season. And remind me I don't suck as a dad. Remind me that, like when somebody says, you're a good man, you're like, oh my gosh, you did it again. Like I see you. You're going for it. You're working hard. Dang, it's hard to be a pastor. Thank you guys for what you do. I don't know every little bit, but I know it really matters a lot. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for not quitting, because you could have. Thank you guys for the little stuff that you do. Thanks for the way that you love people, even the extra grace required ones. So I just want to end by praying for you guys. I'll be here for a few minutes before I head back to Ben's house with these guys. But I really mean it. This is special. God's doing something here, and it's really fun to be part of. So honored to be here. Ben, thanks for inviting me in. Old friends, good to see you guys again. New friends. There's a camaraderie and a familial siblinghood that I feel with you guys. keep going. There's just something about the underdog kind of cities, isn't there? You know, and I just like, man, it's fun to watch because you guys aren't building this playbook based on what you've seen somewhere else. Like, it feels really native to me, and I like that. So I want to invite you to pray, and actually to receive as I pray. Two postures. You may need something from the Lord. You may feel empty, and you're asking the Father to fill you up. Your hands may be way too full, and your schedule may be way too full, of which I would ask you to put your hands like this so the Father can drop something. And so, do you need more of or less of? And I'm going to pray this over you guys. Oh, good Father. It sure helps to taste and see that you're good with barbecue, ridiculous banana pudding, times discussing challenges and imagination and opportunities with people here. God, to dream ahead, to think as Jim invited us to abundance, not scarcity. And we just need to remind ourselves you're a good Father and you have good gifts for your kids. And some people here, some friends here are desperately saying, would you pry these things out of my hand? Would you allow me to drop things? Would you allow me to release things that I've been carrying so my hands and my heart may be more full in the future? Others here feel empty and feel dry and are asking for more impact, more influence, more clarity, more opportunity. God, more inspiration, more reminders of why they got into this thing in the first place. And would you give as we need, God? Give us the gifts that we need. Like my wife who chooses exactly what each kid desires at Christmas. Like a mom who watches all year long to see what would light up her kids. You're that Father, God, that knows what we need, and you're watching, and you know exactly what we need before we need it or ask for it. And we're asking for it in full. And God, as we zoom out, we pray for the 200 churches. We thank you in advance for those 200 churches, God, and those churches they will plant. God, for daughters and sons to come from that house, for fatherhood, spiritual fatherhood to be the norm again. God, for churches that are healthy, that have longevity. God, we're thanking you in advance for what you're going to do here in Fort Worth and to the ends of the earth. And all God's people who just ate an amazing meal said, amen. Amen. Hey, thank you, guys.